Good, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all between the binary. This is Get Informed with Wajeeh. I am Wajeeh Lion. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a good day so far. Well, it could be better, I guess. I want to pull out my article real quick. Wait for everyone to show up. Morning, morning, morning. I still need to post the group chat message. I hope that you guys already know. Hello from Toronto. Welcome. Appreciate you tuning in. This is a Substack chest down. I'm gonna go here, and then we're gonna send this as a message. Hey, let's copy that, and then go back to the group chat. All right. The Strait of Hormuz is officially closed. What the hell is going on? We were told that that the war is almost over. We thought that the United States has allies that would move mountains on our behalf. But what have we done to make sure that our allies always be loyal to us? We sold them our weapons, we sold them our technology, we took their premium money, we made promises, we signed contracts, we gave Qatar a higher protective status than NATO. We're blaming NATO for not showing up, but the United States have not even showed up for Qatar. The reality of the situation is the joint U.S. military campaign Operation Epic Fury and Roaring Lion that was launched on February 28, 2026 aimed to neutralize Iran's leadership and neutralize the Iranian nuclear infrastructure and senior commands. The reality on the ground, we have not destroyed the nuclear infrastructure of Iran. We have decapitated the majority of the senior leadership of the Iranian government. But that strategy did not go too well because the United States government had an intelligence failure where they have not assessed the Iranian capabilities of regathering and rebuilding itself real quickly, which was what happened. I will get to that in a second. The strategy represented a catastrophic intelligence failure, fundamentally miscalculating the institutional resilience of the Islamic Republic by assuming functioned as a fragile personal obstruct. So the United States, after they tested their ability in Venezuela and they kidnapped the sovereign Venezuela leader and his wife and brought him to the United States, the United States thought they could do exactly the same thing in Iran. Not bringing them over to the US, but at least getting to a place where the Iranian government fall. Yes, NATO is a defense alliance, and Trump has signed an alliance with Qatar with a higher protection status than NATO, and the United States hasn't showed up. That's what I was trying to say. Let's see if I could do this. I'll sit down like that. Here you go. Let's see if this is a little comfortable yet. Instead of collapsing, Iran got together and set up the strategic patience doctrine and initiated a massive, decentralized, and highly lethal campaign across the Arabian Peninsula. Iranian government immediately got together and secured a transition committee to select the next supreme leader. We thought that would all be gone. The conflict triggered a strategic paradigm shift where the U.S. military installations in the Gulf transformed from a protective deterrent into a liability for hosting nations. If you're liking what I'm saying, if you like what I'm talking about, please take a minute, share the live stream with your friends, family. Give me some likes in that like button right there down there at the heart. It lets the algorithm know that you like what I'm saying and it invites other people to the live stream. We're talking about important things that will make a difference in your education. Appreciate your support. Despite the GCC states strictly maintaining a defense posture and refusing to allow their territory to be used for offensive operation, Iran established a new doctrine where the mere presence of U.S. Installations justified the bombardment. Faced with unprecedented drone and missiles barrages, Gulf leadership recognized that the concept of purchased security had become actively useless. Gulf nations started their alliances with the United States on the base principle that they secure petroleum for the US and the world, and they deal with that petroleum using the American petrodollar. What does American petrodollar mean? It means that They only deal selling and buying oil by using the American dollar. The US failure to protect these GCC nations has effectively ended an alliance that went all the way back to King Abdulaziz. What was his name? What was his name? There was someone. What's his name? The president. President Roosevelt. The Saudis like to pronounce his name as Roosevelt instead of Roosevelt. Roosevelt, President Roosevelt. When he came and visited Saudi Arabia on a military boat, and the king met on the boat with the other president, and they discussed core security principles that have established the basis of the Saudi American security. And we've essentially, in one term, have brought that almost to an end. Consequently, the GCC is executing a diplomatic decoupling, highlighted by the Qatar's formal initiation, evicting U.S. troops from its country. So the U.S. military is effectively being evicted from Qatar. The U.S. military's largest base in the Middle East or in the GCC is in Qatar, where 1/4 of the whole country is an Air Force military base for the United States. The basis of that eviction is that as long as you're here, you are unsecure and we are unsecure, and therefore it is safer for your soldiers to leave. Did that in a smart way so they don't get the heat from the Trump administration against them. They did that with I would like to say in a master class of artisan of how to deal with Donald Trump. The physical vulnerability exposed by conflict at the Gulf cultivated a narrative of a safe haven, tax free sanctions. All of that was destroyed. For the last 50 years, the Gulf nations have been diversifying their economy by welcoming financial investment firms, by welcoming consulting firms, by inviting over foreign investments to come and invest in new projects, um, to be part of the international trade, and the UAE as a hub in the middle of the old world and in the middle of the world transit, where they play a major part in their airport, transporting the rest of the world from the east to the west. That was all based on two promises. We will give you safety and security. The reason you should come to Dubai, Habibi. Habibi, come to Dubai. You know that saying? Don't worry, you can wear your Rolex here. No one will steal it from you. Don't worry, come wear your Patek Philippe here. It's not like London. It's not like New York. No one is gonna come and mug you in the middle of the street. That was the whole idea. Rich people went there as a safe haven for the rich and a safe haven for investors and businessmen to do their business without having a lot of uh, policies and a lot of oversight from the government, and to ensure that there is no, no gangs or anything like that. The government is very strict about that. The insecure demographic shock has caused a massive exodus of Western expats that are trapped, of millions of low wages immigrants, workers in active conflict zones. All of a sudden, all these rich Americans and all these rich European and everyone that had multi-million, multi-billion dollar banking in the UAE and owned a house on the Palm Beach or owned a house in one of the long high rises is sitting down and going, maybe this was a bad idea. Let's get out of here. What we will do is we will leave. What ended up happening is a large number of people was trying to leave and ended up being stuck at the airport. And those are the people that could afford leaving. So every person that was able to get a private plane got a private plane and left. Every person that was able to get in a car and drive out was able to drive out of the country. The sad reality is that the UAE uses the kafala system, which I have discussed in previous live streams and I have written extensively about. And I encourage you to read my article about kafala, from slavery to kafala, how that happened in Arabia. But the UAE heavily uses the kafala system and heavily uses these kafala employees in the UAE. Uh, and most times they don't have any resources, they don't have any funding, they don't have any access to uh, government and nonprofit services. They're essentially treated like a property. And these workers, especially the ones who are working in active working zones or and working in the infrastructure industry, they have nowhere to go. And the sad reality is the rich is able to escape and the poor is still there. Malcolm Nance says, don't worry about it, and I'll let you know when to escape. But there's a lot of people that don't have the ability to escape and cannot afford the ability to escape. Uh, Iran's asymmetric warfare in the Strait of Hormuz, countered by the comprehensive U.S. naval blockade, Operation Economic Fury. This every time I read that makes me laugh. Operation Economic Fury paralyzed the global economy, energy markets, and the agriculture supply chain. So Trump's genius, and I said this yesterday, he started by yelling and screaming, "Open the street! They need to open the street now!" And then the Iranians are like, "Oh yeah, we're charging $2 million." The next day, Trump goes, "Oh yeah, we have a venture between us and the Iranians." Iranians are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then he goes, "Open the street!" For one day, he goes, "Open the street!" Because they said, "We're not going to pay you nothing." Even though they're accepting Trump coins, so some way he's getting paid. "Open the street, I won't allow it. They are not allowing me to be part of this." Picture. Iranians like, in your dreams, baby, you ain't taking a penny. So Trump next day goes, okay, we'll block your block, bitch. See me work. Let's see you try, baby. You ain't paying me, I will make sure you don't get paid. Yesterday, Iran opens the strait for a few hours. Trump is happy. The strait is open. Free trade. Don't worry. Go, go. I promised you to open the strait. What did he not mention? Iranians are charging the $2 million fee. They're not accepting US dollars. So they were making money, but they were smart. They said, you wanted us to open the strait. Why are you blocking our ships? Habibi, come over here, baby. No one is allowed to come. We'll close everything. As long as we're banned from crossing the strait as well, no one is allowed to. Trump is back to square one. Who's making decisions here? Who's making decisions here? Someone tell me. The economic materialized into global stagflation. Characterized, I always have a hard time pronouncing that word. Par, cartica, categorized. It's okay. Excuse my enunciation. By extreme surges in the Brent crude oil and global fertilizer prices. People telling me, well, gee, you're talking about prices going up, but the future prices is down. Yes, that's the future price. What is the price today? 160, 180, 170. That's the spot price, not the future price. Spot price is now, this second, this day, this moment. 17, 18, uh, $18 maybe in the future extra to fill up your gas tank. I used to pay 30, now I pay 50. If you used to pay 50, you're gonna pay 90. Add another 40, add another 50. Do the math. The house, instead of using 5 cars, 4 cars for all the family members, now they're gonna all be, all carpooling. People will start switching their cars. They're gonna find and the thing is, Trump took, people would have taken this opportunity to switch their cars to electric vehicles. But Trump took away the voucher system for people that want to switch to for people that want to switch to electric cars. So even the old way where we had incentives for people to switch to electric cars. The other day I saw a pickup truck, not the pickup truck, the American truck, the regular. Yeah, it's a pickup truck. Yeah. Uh, Passing from in front of me was quiet. I'm like, there's no way this truck is quiet. I look back and it was an electric truck. The truck has become electric. The US and Iran entered indirect peace negotiations in Islamabad that completely excluded the GCC states from the negotiating table, despite the GCC absorbing the brunt of the physical and economic destruction. That's why they're very pissed off. That's one of the main reasons. How are you the ones starting the war, and how are we the ones taking most of the damage? And you're not allowing me to be even on the peace talk. Why is my opinion not even like considered in this situation? The diplomatic slight accelerated the GCC transition toward a multipolar helding strategy to offset the American unpredictability and strategic optimums. What does that mean? The GCC nations are no longer thinking about the US as their main security partner. The GCC nations now have many partners, which what they have should have done from a long time ago. But they were well, very loyal to the US. Now, Italy is part of their security alliance. UK has been and will be part of the security alliance. I don't know if you heard of the Yamama deal. I should write a paper about that. But the Yamama deal and its corruption in the UK, especially when it comes to military purchases, is a very big issue. You have Ukraine making security alliance with the GCC. You have Russia making security alliance with the GCC. Russia, man, very close. All of our adversaries that we or competitors from allies are now a part of the Saudi GCC security apparatus, or even maybe like planning. So there is a permanent regional realignment underway as the GCC depends ties with China for technological infrastructure and free trade agreement while exploring asymmetric defense acquisitions from Russia. The 2026 U.S. National Defense Strategy marked a historic paradigm shift, explicitly rejecting uh, interventionism and prioritizing the defense of American homeland. That's the part of the strategic retreat. The U.S. is retreating now from Southeast Asia or from the South China Sea, where we're supposed to be there protecting Taiwan. We are retreating from a lot of other places. This inward pivot is an arched by the Golden Dome for America, an initiative multi-layered domestic missile defense shield. The U.S. is no longer viewing itself as a safe place in the world. U.S. citizens are no longer safe across the world, and specifically for these reasons. The technological threats implies that the US will no longer automatically guarantee the security of regional allies, effectively citing the Middle East to a multipolar coalition led by Beijing and Moscow. And I said this from the beginning. I said that what we have an issue with here is that China and Russia, the two countries that are known to be an oppressive regime, all of a sudden are the countries that are coming out as the wise people in the room. China and Russia, ones who are usually doing shady deals, are the ones who are calling for peace. China and Russia are way more predictable to these GCC nations than the United States. Saudi Arabia, a close U.S. ally, has joined the Russian Chinese BRICS. Also, the other GCC nations are joining. I wrote about an article about the death of the American petrodollar. Someone emailed me the other day and told me that's not the death of the American dollar. I didn't say that's the death of the American dollar. I said it was the death of the American petrodollar. The fact of the matter is that yeah, Saudi Arabia joined BRICS well, a long time ago. And the fact of the matter is the world, when Roosevelt went to Saudi Arabia and they made an agreement for the security pact, big part of that agreement is the U.S. unapologetic security for these GCC nations, specifically Saudi Arabia at the moment, and Qatar for the designating of higher than NATO status. I'll go back to the question. Yeah, they did join BRICS. So when the US made that deal with the Saudi government to have a petrodollar, that made the sales of oil around the world only being done mostly in US dollar. That alone was helping offset a lot of the US loans it was taken because they were using the American petrodollar. So it helped a lot with the US inflation. It helped a lot with balancing the US economy. Anytime we have international sales done in US dollars, that helps the US dollar. Well, these nations and since everything was and mostly is done currently with the dollar, that really gives America a lot of control over sanctions. US sanctions alone sadly are responsible for more than 500,000 deaths around the world, mostly children. Should I repeat that? US sanctions alone cause 500,000 deaths annually every year, mostly children. We use it in the name of democracy, putting pressure on adversary nations to follow whatever that we want. We use these sanctions to hope that the people in a country would become poor enough and desperate enough that they have nothing else to lose, that they go out in the street and demand the fall of their government. That's the game. That's how it's played. That's the strategy. When you study how sanctions work and you understand the game theory behind it, the whole point is how much choking do I need to do for the people to be desperate enough for them to uprise against the current regime, or for the people to put enough pressure on the current regime to comply with foreign government. That's what you should think of every time someone mentions sanctions. It's a cute name. It's a short name, but it represents a lot more than what it says. All right. Let me see here. Let me see here. View post. No. Let me see here. Make sure that this goes uploaded. If you don't upload this thing, it will never work. Okay. You guys know how to get to the chat, and you know how to put the question in the chat, or do you want me to show you how to do that real quick? Because in 13 minutes, I do have to have a hard end to this podcast. I do have other plans and other events that I need to attend to. Um, okay, you do want me to show you how to do that. Okay, no worries. I don't see anyone that's in a live stream currently. That sucks. Or I'm not following anyone that's in a live stream. Who's in a live stream? Who's in a live stream? Who's in a live stream? Okay, no. Okay, it still works. All right, let's do this. So, this is me in Substack. This is a recording, but it should be exactly the same thing. What I'm gonna do is see my finger. I will push this to the side for an Android, or I'm not sure how iPhone works. But then I go to this message sign down at the bottom and I click on it. If it's somewhere else, then just click on that. I'm gonna go quickly and I move real quick to the group chat. Preferably if you go up and you find this and you click in this line right here, leave a reply. That would be perfect spot to leave the question. But if you are having hard time, then just leave it in the general message group, and I will have an opportunity to read it and ask you that question and answer that question that you have asked me. I hope that is helpful. Do you need me to show you guys how to do that again, or are you all set? Okay. I appreciate you working with me because as questions come in and as comments come in, the everything moves real quick. But if I have the questions on one side, I can find your question. I will answer it. That's the whole idea. All right, let's go up here. How does the U.S. end this? I said how the U.S. ends this. They need to make some concessions. They need to admit some losses. They need to apologize for their wrong. Iran told us how they could end this, not me. So Iran told the United States, show us that we can trust you. You have burnt the trust bridge so many times. If you want us to trust you, then show us. So there are people who specialize in conflict resolution. The United States has some of the best conflict resolution programs in the world. One of them is in Columbia, Missouri, Columbia University in New York City. And I was trying to go to that program. I'm surprised that we have some of the best conflict resolution people. I think even Trump, if we brought him the best conflict resolution people, he wouldn't be listening to them. And that's the biggest problem, is that we have someone who just wants to do what he wants. What? How can I else say it? Like Joe Kent, is that how you pronounce his name? He's a Trumper. He was with the head of anti-terrorism. He left. He said there was no imminent threat to the United States. If there is no imminent to the threat to the United States, then why did we even start this? Why did American soldiers have to get killed, injured, and have to get rescued and have to lose planes here and there when there was no imminent threat? Could you explain that to me? Yes, yesterday I talked about greed. Go back to yesterday's episode on my Q&A. I mentioned in detail how the Trump family been making profit out of their foreign policy. We have a Trump administration that dismantled some of the best soft power the US has ever had. US aid. US aid was not just to send food to people who needed it. It was the tool the US was used to send even a CIA agent to learn about what other countries are thinking. It's what we use to change people's opinion across the world. Al Hurra, an Arabic channel that the US has been paying for a long time, and it basically created it. The whole point of that channel was to influence Arabic viewers to become more supportive of American ideology and the American government. We have stopped all funding to that organization. It's all frozen. Please explain to me, why have we cut off the hands of our best workers, our best organizations that have been giving us a lot of positive feedback, a good projects, public opinion change. As an American, you don't want to travel across the world and feel like insecure and safe. Europeans and Canadians are wearing their flag when they're traveling now, just to prove to the world that they're not a US citizen. Wajeeh, yesterday you said that Iran would never trust US no matter who the administration is. What do you think about NATO? Do you think NATO will welcome us back? Do you know if American diplomats are working with NATO and the UAE outside of Trump's administration? So people are nations are finding every opportunity to skip the US at the moment in particular, especially for the current White House. All of the European leaders met yesterday or the day before yesterday in France with Macron to discuss joint effort and opening the Strait of Hormuz and they did not discuss any work with the United States. NATO has a lot of thinking to do. They might form their own version of NATO for their own nations. France, before Trump started this war, has already announced that it was going to build 1,000 plus nuclear bomb and spread it across Europe to replace the American nuclear bombs that will be sent back to the US. I think what I said yesterday, in addition to Iran will never trust the US, I also said if we want Iran to trust the United States, the next president has to go out on an apology tour, apologize for the fact that we had our CIA involved and destroyed the first democratically elected president of Iran because he just disagreed with some of the views of the United States, even though he was not a radical Muslim, even though he was not a part of the current ideology. We need to apologize for all of our meddling and interventions over the years in their country. And then we need to apologize for the attack that we have done on their nation in the last few weeks, the last month and a half. And without admitting your mistake, you cannot make peace. You have to show your humbleness. You know, it was very moving when the Pope Francis, went around the world and apologized for the Catholic Church mistakes. He went to the Native Americans and he apologized. He went to indigenous tribes across the world and he told them that we are wrong, we wronged you. When he passed away, the whole world showed up. The poor, the hungry, the indigenous, the black, the yellow, and the white. What kind of legacy are we leaving is my main question. That is the legacy that if someone, when passes away, they have left a fingerprint. Pope Francis literally washed the feet of asylum and refugee seekers when he first became Pope. The current Pope, Pope Leo, speaks when it comes to morality, and the whole Trump MAGA cult goes attacking him for doing his exact job that he's supposed to be doing. Someone told him to focus on the church and leave the state alone. And I was like, you know, he's a head of state, right? You know, he doesn't need the American passport anymore, right? He literally had to change his whole goddamn name. Excuse my language. And then the same exact people want to force their selective religious ideology in the Bible Belt and south of the U.S. and whatever they can across the U.S. Let's go. I have been slow answering questions. I apologize. Do you think the U.S. troops and tactical nuclear weapons are still possible? Trump himself said nothing is off the table. That's the answer I will give you. Why would Iran accept Trump coin? I think it's to mock him, one, and two, it's a smart move on their end. Without having to pay him directly, they're paying him indirectly. I mean, that should soften the blow a little bit, but Trump is so greedy that he wants more than Trump coin. He wants a good portion of the amount they're getting paid for. Uh, that's 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 what is crazy. Does this mean Putin and Trump are breaking up? No. Trump, uh, not me. Malcolm said, I have to be very careful with my words around Trump now. Uh, uh, Malcolm said, find you someone who loves you like Trump loves Putin's ass. What advice would I give Trump? Uh, Step down. We'll pay for all of your golf courses. We'll make sure you win all of the golf tournaments. And we'll give you all of the awards you need, including the Peace Prize. Yesterday I said it. For the first time, the American president, with his words, he united the Catholic Church and the supreme leader of Iran. Definitely deserve the Peace Prize. I think I've got by George. Do you see one political figure that could maybe restore trust in the US? It's not about the figure as much as about the work. Um, I have issues with people who put more trust in figures than the message or the work or um, because people change. People do good and they do bad. People are up and down. People have illnesses. They have their own issues. Their own family. So they change. Don't put trust on one person. Put trust on the process if we make a good process. That's why I say if we have a system that's designed to be broken, then expect everything else to come out of it broken. If you have a manufacturer, right, and you program that machine to make a mistake, that mistake will appear on every shirt that you print. Why did I mention the prison study that was done by Stanford the other day? And I will try to end that here. The prison study that was done by Stanford that took 10 prisoners as volunteers and took 10 uh, prison guards as volunteers. I strongly recommend you go and check that study. What we found out from that study is that the environment that the people find themselves into is what makes them good or bad. When the US invaded Iraq and we took over prison Abu Ghraib from Saddam Hussein, and we had people who volunteered to serve their nation, people who went to church every Sunday, people who were raising their kids on the right path, people who have not crossed a red light in the US. All of a sudden, we put them in a situation where we take all oversights away and we don't give them any rules or guidelines. And what we have discovered is when you do that, people abuse their power. That's why we saw Prison Abu Ghraib commit heinous crimes against a lot of innocent people, including people who are on the spectrum and mentally ill, and people who are not even there. Yes, they have to go to prison. These amazing human beings have done horrible crimes because the system did not offer any oversight. We see that with powerful, rich people every day because there's no oversight. Senators and representatives, insider trade. Because there is no protection, If your senator or representative sexually assaults you, no one stops them. I worked at the Kansas State Senate for Senator Olita Fauscudel, a black single mom, amazing person, suppose, for her community. Because I was a consultant and because I was helping police fix the relationship with Muslim communities and the FBI fix the relationship with Muslim community, I was once paid a visit by the FBI to consult me about, what they need to do to fix their relationship. So they took me out to lunch. And after that lunch was over, I introduced them to the senator. And then they left. The senator called me over into her office. She's like, "Are you ISIS? Are you a member of Al Qaeda?" And then after that, she was like, "No, you must be an FBI agent." I had to quit my job. I had to leave. I reported her to HR. But what are they going to do? Fire her? She's a democratically elected representative. Anyways, that's my experience with overreach of power in the United States from someone who is a good person. If you like what I have to talk about, please like, subscribe, and share. Invite your friends over. If you cannot afford my premium membership, send me a DM in my private messages and with your email associated with your account. And I will be more than happy to give you a premium membership on the house. Uh, if you can afford to become a paid member, please consider becoming a paid member. It helps pays the bill and do what I do best, so you can do it full time, so you don't have to do it full time. We'll see you again. We'll see you later, and I like to say, مع السلامة, bye bye, وبالإنجليزي goodbye. See you next time.